Okay, welcome to I Am Your Father, the podcast. A long time ago, I raised a son to know his Fellini from his Fincher. But does he? I don't know.
Now we're turning our arguments into content. This is I Am Your Father, where Gen X meets Gen Z in hyperspace.
Son, good to see you. You're bringing out the big guns.
Yeah.
I feel like you're about to take down Alderaan.
Well, you know, it's 90 plus degrees here now, so not too many t-shirts anymore.
That's the madness of it. I get you.
Yeah.
So you're a couple episodes, or at least one episode ahead of me on Daredevil. You got caught up. I did not.
I am.
Without spoiling, what are your high level thoughts?
This most recent episode, I enjoyed it very much. I've been enjoying the show plenty. I think it's really good. Yeah. There's not an episode that I've been underwhelmed by or disappointed in, but I would say so far it's not as good as the original show for me. However, this most recent episode kind of felt a little bit like a return to form. Brought back some old characters, no spoilers or anything, characters who have already been in the show, but season 3 characters, and it was just really good. It had a really great climactic ending as well. So for me, it is probably my favorite episode of the season so far, and I am now looking forward to the finale even more so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I will probably be watching it tonight so we can get caught up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we got a new segment that we're going to be touching in at the end of the episode where we're giving each other homework assignments. Have you thought of your homework assignment for me yet?
I actually have not, so I will come up with one.
You better come up with one between now and the end of the episode, baby.
I will.
Come on.
I will.
All right.
My bad.
All right. Well, let's get going. We'll start off with our 10 in 20.
Let's go.
All right, and I've got the clock managed for us, so let's kick it off right now.
Yeah, wonderful. Right off the bat, we have the Minecraft movie, which I know you haven't seen. I also haven't seen, but I'm starting to think I might have to go see it. Are you at all aware of the phenomenon that this has become?
I am. I've been keeping up with the news on it. It's not a movie that I care to see necessarily. It's not my demographic, but it's the highest grossing film of the year. It's, I think, from what I understand, it's Warner's highest grossing maybe film of opening of all time. I mean, it's beat Barbie now. It's beat and I think it's the highest grossing opening weekend since Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah,
so crazy. But we got 200 million people that have played Minecraft, and it's working into nostalgia of Gen Z and some millennials, maybe mostly Gen Z, I would say, I guess. So I guess it makes sense. It seems like it's the right kind of IP, although it's definitely not designed for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's made over $300 million its opening weekend with a budget of 150. So that's just insane right off the bat. But then on top of that, you have just masses and masses of teenagers and kids showing up to this movie and just being so incredibly disruptive, like screaming, cheering, getting the cops called on them, getting kicked out, bringing air horns, throwing things all over the place, confetti poppers. And I think this is just ridiculous. Stop destroying theaters. It's not cool. People have to pick that up. It's not fun for the families who went there just to enjoy a movie with their kids. It's ridiculous.
Look at you, man. Old man says, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. Get off.
That's right. Well, all right. Fair enough. I guess the question for me is whether or not this is the new IP. And I don't mean video games necessarily. I mean just sort of the timing. Like I said, I think this is really heavily focused on like the 22 and under age demo. And they are spending money and going to theaters. It sounds like they're costing us a lot of money too. But with that, we are down to 2 minutes. So topic number 2, another one for you to dive deeper than I will be able to. But Inside Out 3 is now officially in the works. The second was a big hit. The first was obviously a bit of a game changer for Pixar. What are your thoughts on number 3 making its way down?
Again, I'm both excited and hesitant when it comes to these Pixar sequels, or honestly just sequels in general. I really enjoy the first Inside Out. I would say it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite Pixar movie. I think it's really good. I thought the second one was also really great. Not as good for me, but I found plenty of enjoyment in that movie and a pretty good, meaningful message. And I guess they're just going to keep making these, considering they keep making over $1 billion. And I'm just wondering if they can keep up the quality of the content.
Yeah. I mean, I get it for old man Gen X over here. I really appreciate Pixar for its original content. And so when they start going back and dipping back into the well, quality as it may be, successful as it may be, it's not necessarily my game. It's not what I'm as interested in. So, Toy Story 5 or 6 or 25, I don't know which one is also greenlit, I'm hearing, and they're moving forward with that kind of thing. I guess I just want to say, like Pixar, I want to see more new Pixar, right? I know we have a new one coming out this year as well, but
it's what made
that's
Pixar
more what
great.
I'm interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I also didn't see number 2, so I skipped out on that. Just like I said with the other piece there, I want to see the new stuff. So but obviously Pixar has one of the best track records in terms of making sequels really work and be high quality and be as good as the originals. Some would say better. And so I think we're probably in good hands with Inside Out 3.
Probably.
Yeah. All right, topic number 3. Robert Pattinson is in talks or officially signed on. It feels like, depending upon the news you read, it's official or it's not official. But for Dune Messiah, he's going to be in there. And it seems like that's going to create a bit of a conflict for Batman. Let's say first part of this topic is, what are your thoughts on Pattinson joining the Dune world?
Well, I would absolutely love that. Those are 2 movies that I think are just fantastic, and he's an actor who I think is also fantastic, and he's kind of on a generational run right now, just piece by piece restoring his reputation after Twilight. People are starting to finally recognize him as more than just Edward the Vampire. So I would absolutely love to see him in this movie, but at the same time, it absolutely breaks my heart if it conflicts with the Batman 2, because that is pretty much the movie that I want to see more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's like saying, you're not going to get your chicken wings because the burger's happening first, and like, wait, which one? I want them both. I want them both. I mean, I'm a little more concerned, just based on the direction that Dune Messiah takes the IP, to understand how Mr. Denny is going to take care of us there and figure out how to adapt that story. I feel like he's going to have to make some pretty big changes in order to bring that book to the screen. But I'm excited. I think that Pattinson is a really great choice to add to that cast and to continue to up the ante with the cast. But I'm nervous about what that means for Batman 2 as well, which I guess we still have 10 more seconds, but that takes us right into our next topic, which is the Batman, the delay on Batman. And we've got another delay that was announced. So it seems like the studio is trying to figure out how to shuffle around to make room for Pattinson. But I've also read a few reports today and yesterday that said that there's a chance that Batman 2 is getting scrapped altogether and might not even happen. So what's happening here? This is such a good movie. Why would this sequel be scrapped? Just because of scheduling?
Yeah, I mean, that would be absolutely ridiculous. And I think there's a little more to it. But first off, I think that delay happened before the Dune news. And so the Dune casting of Robert Pattinson would cause an even further delay, I believe, on top of the one that we already have. And that's what's extra depressing about all this. I have absolutely no idea why they would not make the Batman 2. I know he's taken his time with writing the script. He wants to get it right. And that's what I want to. I want it to be great. But in no world should this movie ever be scrapped. In no world should James Gunn decide to push this movie back because he doesn't want 2 Batmans at the same time. I would rather have 2 Batmans and it be a little confusing so long as we get this movie, because this movie is my most anticipated movie. I love the first one. It's one of my favorite movies ever. Yep. And I want to get the Batman 2.
We both ranked it number 1 in our Batman series, which was surprising. It's a bit of a hot take. I think some people agree with us. I think plenty of people did not agree with us.
Right.
But, and I was even, I'm reluctant to make that admission. I think that there's a lot to be said for some of the other entries into that catalog. But I agree. I'm super nervous. But I guess I'm slightly more nervous about what's going to come of the movie in our next topic for 10 and 20. By the way, we have a luxury of time here. We're just now, we're moving through. We got 10 more seconds.
We're breezing.
I can rant and rave here. Okay, so next topic in the 10 and 20 is the whole scene from Superman has been released. I'm not watching it. I'm boycotting the scene. I don't want to see anymore. But you've watched it, right?
Yeah, I have no self-control. So I watched the scene because I don't know how to tell myself no when it comes to watching movie trailers.
What?
And what it is basically is about a 2 to 2.5 minute 2.5 minute scene from the movie, followed by a reworked trailer, which is basically just the first trailer again. And that 2.5 minute scene, it wasn't full of spoilers. It was just a scene, so I appreciate that. And it actually made me a little more excited for the movie, but also a little more hesitant because there was some humor in it right away. And I'm not super looking for Guardians of the Galaxy humor in this movie.
Yeah, but this is James Gunn. I understand. And this is part of his style.
That. Yeah, but I will say one thing it did help affirm is David Cornsweet as Superman. You got a pretty good look at him, and his suit looks much better with a little bit of post-production done. They tighten it up a little bit, make it look a little less baggy or Star-Lord-y. It looks really good. And as I was watching that trailer, I showed it to my wife, and she looked at me and she's like, wow, he is Superman. And I'm hoping we feel that way when we walk out of the theater too.
Okay. Well, there was also CinemaCon last week, I believe. And what I saw in terms of the interviews, it really felt like he was not prepared. Like, he was not really selling the film in a way that got me excited. In fact, he seemed overly talkative at times. He seemed unable to answer certain questions. I really feel like they need to if he's going to be the face of the franchise, I think they need to work on that. So I'm glad to hear. I guess, should I watch it?
You absolutely could. It doesn't spoil much, but if you want to, save yourself 2.5 minutes more enjoyment in the movie, then you could skip it. You could go either way. I just told you about it, so.
I think I'm going to stay skipping it. All right, we're past our 2-minute mark. The bomb has gone off. Topic number 6, Tron Ares. We've got a poster and a trailer. What do you think, my man?
First of all, Jared Leto makes me nervous whenever he's attached to anything. He is so extremely hit or miss, and most often he's a miss for me, though he does have great performances. I was nervous. This trailer, well, first of all, the poster looked really cool, and then I watched the trailer, and I know at the very least it's going to be visually stunning. It looks pretty cool.
It does look beautiful.
And I'm surprised that this franchise is still going, but I have to say I'm cautiously optimistic. I know it's going to at least be a beautiful movie in terms of the visuals.
Yeah, I like the cast. I'm not sure I am quite on board with the concept yet, but I'm also willing to go with it. I guess I'm I find it an interesting choice in general in terms of recycling this IP, going back to our conversation earlier about Minecraft and what worked. I feel like nostalgia for the 80s is falling off. And right now it's more nostalgia for the 2010s, late aughts. I feel like we're going to move into the 90s pretty soon, but this does feel like a bit of a risk. I didn't do the research on how the second one performed, but I don't think it was amazing. So I do find it a little interesting they're going down this route.
It does have a cult following. The second one.
It does. And listen, I mean, I have vivid memories of playing these video games in arcades when I was a kid. I am the target audience. I'm just not sure I'm the right target audience for successful IP.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Why don't you get us going with number 7?
Yeah, we have Guy Ritchie in talks to direct Roadhouse 2. I didn't know this movie was getting a sequel. Can I ask you a question?
Have we had an episode yet where we haven't talked about Guy Ritchie doing something new?
Yeah, Guy Ritchie's working on 15 things right now as we speak.
Every time we get together to have a conversation, it's Guy Ritchie's doing this, Guy Ritchie's doing that, Guy Ritchie's doing that. You know,
we didn't even talk about the trailer. We didn't
No.
even talk about the trailer for the other show that you showed me.
Yeah, no, we didn't get a chance to talk about it. Turns out it's a movie, not a trailer, or not a show. I thought it was going to be a TV show. It turns out it's a movie. The one with John Krasinski and Natalie Portman, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks interesting. But yeah, so again, we're recycling content from, gosh, was Roadhouse early 90s, or probably Roadhouse was early 90s. I know that the Gyllenhaal film was pretty successful by all accounts in terms of streaming numbers, but is this where you want to see Richie go? I know my answer.
No. Yeah.
Give me Sherlock. Give me Sherlock, please.
Sherlock, please.
Why are we wasting our time with Roadhouse 2? I don't know.
And 10 other projects.
Yeah, I didn't dislike the first one. I think Lyman was a weird choice for it, but
I think you're absolutely right. I think the fans have spoken, and they've been demanding Sherlock for 10 years or however long it's been since the last one came out. It's got to be close to 10 years now at least.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's getting a little ridiculous.
I guess I would rather see Lyman go back at it or them try somebody else, but for part 2, but I don't know that I am super excited about this as a Guy Ritchie film. I liked the news about the UFC film better. But, I guess we'll see. Speaking of interesting director combinations, topic number 8, Fincher set to direct a sequel / spinoff to Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, written by Tarantino. This is honestly, this news at first came out on April Fool's Day, and I was convinced that it was a joke. I think I sent it to you and then said ha ha ha, because it definitely couldn't have been true.
It still feels like it might be.
It is, but there's news coming out every day that seems to be solidifying the fact that this is actually happening. I'm blown away. So, as you know, Fincher and Tarantino, probably my top 2 directors. This is a very strange marriage that I kind of want to see.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I kind of want to see this. When I first thought it was an April Fool's joke, I was like, "Oh man, they got me good.
That would be so cool.
They got me so good." And now I can't believe this is not an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, I know. It is very strange because those are 2 directors that, like, the tone of their movies just don't match in any way. And I am very curious to see what this sequel looks like. And it's supposed to take place like many years after the next one. And I believe Brad Pitt is set to star in it.
His character. Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, I'm here for it.
It's interesting because Fincher does not write his own material. Fincher is a director of other people's material. He's one of the best, though, at taking really good material and expanding on it and adding his visual style to it,
Right.
Whereas Tarantino started as someone who was a writer for other directors, became an auteur, one of the best ever in his own right, and now it seems like maybe he's going to go the other direction. He seems to not want to make a ton of movies or wants to retire. So I'm in for it, though, and I'm definitely going to buy tickets for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into number 9, I'm going to give you a statement, then ask you a question, and then cut you off and give you my opinion.
I appreciate you setting me up for the interruption.
Absolutely. Here we go. Haley Atwell is set to appear in both of the next Avengers movies. The question I pose to you is, should Captain Carter save the multiverse? And before you answer, I'm going to tell you the answer is no.
You didn't even let me start to interrupt.
The answer is no, and this has been one of the most interesting. It is theorized that Captain Carter is an industry plant. They are trying to make us love her just so badly, and she was fun in the first episode of What If. She was fun in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but I draw the line when she's the most reoccurring character in an anthology series called What If, and she becomes more and more powerful. She becomes the most important being in the universe, and she becomes the person to save the universe time and time again, or even the multiverse. And I do not want Secret Wars or Doomsday to end with Captain Carter saving the day. I just don't.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I mean, this is one of those debates that I have not engaged in. My interest in Captain Carter is purely visual. And that being, I joke. I think she's a really great. Haley Atwell's a great performer.
She is.
You look at what she brought to the Mission Impossible franchise. I think she really, to me, I feel like she stole that last film.
She did.
I really love her as a performer. I think she's great. I think she's captivating. You can't take your eyes off of her. The character itself has always, to me, at least through, especially as we got into Phase 2 and others within Marvel, it started to feel a little mechanical to me. It's probably not a popular opinion. I get it. I'm not throwing hate on Haley Atwell, but I'm not sure how on board I am on this. Now, listen, your rant went so far. We are way out of time. The explosion's past us. So we're now down to 1:45 for our final topic. Christopher Nolan officially not directing James Bond. I think we kind of saw the writing on the wall here, but the talk of the town here now is that they are in heavy negotiation with Alfonso Cuarón. And, what do you think of this direction?
Well, right off the bat, I was never a huge fan of the idea of Christopher Nolan directing a James Bond movie. And that's just simply because James Bond is not an IP that I have heavily connected with or find the most interesting. I enjoy the Daniel Craig movies, but I haven't seen any of the others. And to me, I kind of just didn't want Christopher Nolan wasting his time on a movie that I didn't care about as much. So it's kind of selfish. But
I can't imagine it would have been just one movie, though. Like, if you're going to bring Nolan on, it's got to be like what he did with The Dark Knight. And
that's what I was afraid of.
That's what it was. It was like IP love of his on his part. And he's not. I mean, going back to Tarantino, he's like, Nolan is not the first famous auteur that wanted to dip his beak into the pool of James Bond, but. Maybe he's not the right choice. Let's go to the other side of this argument. With 27 seconds left, what are your thoughts on Alfonso taking it?
I'm here for it. I've seen only a few of his movies, and I've liked all of them. I think he has a really great eye for cinematography and the way that his movies look. I think they look really beautiful, and for that reason alone, I'm here for it. I think it's a great choice.
Have you've seen Children of Men?
Recently.
Yeah. Just an absolutely beautiful film. I think he also obviously did my favorite
Harry
Potter film, Gravity.
He did Gravity.
Time Beyond. Yeah. So just a really great director, and I'm excited to see it. Okay, listen, hey, the final bomb has exploded, and we are out of time. But I think we did pretty good. This may be our best 10 and 20.
I think it was our best.
At least
good
in
flow.
Terms of managing our timing. Because some of our 10 and 20s are 10 and 30 or something along those lines.
Well, I think we had 10 and 40.
That might have been true. I blame you.
Yeah, it was my fault.
No, it's probably my fault. Okay. Shall we move on within the show?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to play our BS game again. We're going to go back and forth wagering who has better knowledge in a specific category until one of us calls BS on the other, and that one has to prove it. So this topic today is going to be DC characters. That could be comics, shows. I mean, they're all in the comics. So this is not movie exclusive. So DC comic characters.
I'll start us off and say that I can do. I'm going to jump high. I'm going to go 20. I feel like this is a topic that is a little more in my wheelhouse than Harry Potter was.
Yeah, you didn't just pull up a list, did you?
Oh, I've been pulling up lists all day. No, you surprised me with this topic a few minutes before. So
yeah,
I'm going to have to go off of sheer I don't know. Well, knowledge.
All right, well, I will see your 20, and I will raise you only 2. I'm going 22.
22? Come on, that's a terrible.
Got to play it safe.
That's a terrible one. Huh?
I got to play it safe.
Well, I mean, I mean, 25 is easy to get to.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right. I'll say 27.
30.
30 in 60 seconds would be really impressive. So
I'm already regretting.
I know you hate it. I know you hate this game, but I'm calling BS on you right now. You're going to have to name 30 DC characters in 60 seconds. I'm going to pull up my timer right now.
You got the timer?
Yep. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Superman, Batman, Joker, Clayface, the Flash. We'll say Barry, Jon Stewart as Green Lantern. Let's go back to Batman, my favorite. Let's go with Jason Todd. Let's go with Barbara Gordon. Let's go with Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Alfred. Are you keeping track?
Yep.
Okay,
go.
Supergirl, Batwoman, Green Arrow. Let's go with Robin. We can get more specific, like Tim Drake, Damian Wayne. Did I already say Joker? I think I did. Lex Luthor, Dick Grayson, Hal Jordan.
10 seconds.
I didn't say what?
10 seconds.
Oh, Two-Face, Commissioner Gordon,
Time.
Crypto. Ugh.
Man, that was
How close was
22.
Oh, dang it.
A little ways off. I think you probably would have done best if you just stuck with Batman characters. You know that world well. I think you were going a little too broad off the bat.
I was going stream of consciousness. There's a lot of them. Ra's al Ghul that I could have said that I didn't get to. And I of course didn't get to the seminal Black Adam, as portrayed by our man.
I mean, I think
Rock.
you only named 3 villains at all.
I know. I could have got 20 just with Batman villains. I don't know.
Yeah.
22.
Better luck next time.
You know what? It's the time that got me. 10 more seconds and I would have been at 30.
Absolutely. You get in your head a little bit.
Harley
You're thinking
Quinn?
too much about the time. No, you didn't.
I know. I didn't say Harley Quinn. Poison Ivy, Black Canary,
So many.
Bane. I'm. This is not
Disappointed.
good. I know.
Disappointed.
I don't know what else to say. Well, you won that one. We're going to shift from DC to the MCU again for our main topic today. We're going to move over to Phase 2. We covered Phase 1 an episode or 2 episodes ago. I don't remember. Yeah, 2 episodes ago. But today we're going to dive into Phase 2 and talk a little bit about the quality of the phase and do some quick rankings. Looking at our rankings, son, we're aligned on almost everything. It's a little ridiculous. It's a bit redundant. There's really only one debate for us, and that's the number 1 slot.
Yeah.
So listen, why don't we start by you giving us your high-level thoughts on Phase 2, coming off the pretty unprecedented success of Phase 1.
Yeah, I think Phase 2 had a lot to prove. That it wasn't over, the show wasn't over, but they were going to keep going and keep building towards another big event. And I think overall they did a decent job at that. There's a few in here that are just okay, or even one that I would say is not good. But as a whole, I think it's pretty solid. I think it did its job well. And I think most importantly, it built up the overall story well enough that by the time we get to Phase 3, they had people raving for Marvel like never before. So I think it did all the right things for the most part. And we share opinions on the quality of most of the movies, but I think we probably still have a few hot takes in here. How about you? What do you think about Phase 2?
I think that Phase 2 is a little all over the place, but maybe not in a bad way. Phase 1 was very specific about let's introduce a core group of heroes. Let's give them their origin stories, and then let's figure out how to get them together. And it was really successful. We only really had the one big hiccup in terms of a major casting decision that had to happen as we moved from Edward Norton to help me out.
Mark Ruffalo.
To Mark Ruffalo, thank you. Terrible brain fart. Phase 2, though, to me is about introducing us to brand new characters, a brand new team up that most people, the common viewer was not aware of. It's got some sequels, some successful, some less successful. And then it's got really the introduction of a new style that would kind of come to define the highest highs of the MCU as well. So yeah. I think there's a lot to talk about as it relates to this. But let's talk first about the sequels, because we have two sequels, if you don't count Avengers. We have two sequels in here where we're going back to the well, and it's the third. We did have one sequel in Phase 1 with Iron Man 2, but we've got Iron Man 3 and we've got Thor: Dark World. Any thoughts on where those sit?
Well, we also have Winter Soldier. That's also a sequel.
Oh yeah, that's a sequel too. I don't know why I'm not thinking about that. Yeah.
But off the bat,
so if you go with Winter Soldier, Ultron, Thor: Dark World, and Iron Man 3, 4 of 6 films are sequels.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, going back to what you said, I think the success they found in Phase 2 was the success they were looking for in Phase 4, where they kind of said, okay, we did our event, we told our big story, we're going to build to something else, and we're going to just introduce some new characters that nobody has really previously cared about. And that worked in Phase 2. It did not work in Phase 4 nearly as well. And part of that's a whole nother story as to why not. But I do think that their success here was kind of their downfall in Phase 4 later on. I think they might have gotten a little cocky, just thinking that, hey, they'll actually care about anybody we introduce. And that's actually not true. But in terms of the sequels, I think 3 of the 4 sequels were worthy successors. One of them, I think, was a major improvement. But then obviously we can just get right into it. At the bottom of both of our lists, we have Thor: The Dark World. That one was definitely a letdown. I remember seeing it in the theater and laughing several times and actually thinking, hey, that was enjoyable. But it's one of those movies, the more I rewatch it, the less I like it, because there aren't too many moments or sequences or anything in that movie that stands out to me that I remember. I couldn't even tell you the main villain's name. And really, the only reason it's really worth a rewatch at all is because it becomes important later down the road.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think there's a bit of an auteur problem there too. I don't know that Alan Taylor's the right fit for the MCU. I think there's a bit of a tonal separation between that film and almost anything else that comes out during that time. I do think we start to get a bit of a spark, maybe if I'm remembering right, from Hemsworth in terms of the comedy aspect, but I think that generally speaking, that's the biggest letdown of the phase. The other thing is, you mentioned the villain. I think we have a second situation where we've got a sort of a semi big name character actor coming in to be that villain and having really no passion or interest for it whatsoever. It's just a full on paycheck. We had that with Captain America, and we have that again with Christopher Eccleston Eccleston in the role of the villain whose name we can't.
He's
remember,
a dark elf,
and who I'm sure the internet will
they'll let us
scold
know.
us for.
Yeah, it is a completely stale performance. But I will say, and this is not a good thing, by the way, but the main thing I remember from that movie when it came out is the post-credit scene. It was one of the first post-credit scenes in the MCU that wasn't super clear what it meant. And I just remember immediately walking to the car with you and Googling, what does this mean? What are they? Yeah. What is this? What are they talking about? Where are we going? And they kind of gave us our first inclination as to where it was all going to start building towards. And so if the best part of your movie is the post-credit scene, your movie's not
a good
good.
Sign. Yeah. Well, that takes us to our number 5 choice, which we're also aligned on, Ant-Man. I gotta say, like, I don't think this is a poorly made film, and I don't think that I know it has a lot of love. A lot of people love this film. I don't personally love it. I've never connected well with the Ant-Man series, and I feel like unfortunately it's gotten worse with consecutive entries. But this is one of those where I found myself watching it going like, for maybe the first time, Marvel had put out a movie that I found myself super underwhelmed with, and I stand by that. But like I said, I know a lot of people love Michael Pena in the film. They love T.I. They love that whole group, all of his little pals. But I just found this movie, and I continue to find this movie a bit underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I thought it was really funny, and that's what stands out. I think it does have a little bit of heart. I think Paul Rudd kind of surprised people by showing up and being a character that they actually cared about, and they actually were able to buy him as a superhero to an extent. But kind of like you said, overall, it kind of just gets lost in the mix for me. I forget about it. I don't forget about his character, but just the movie itself. And honestly, all three of his movies are never going to be what I want to turn on when it comes to Marvel. And so there's nothing particularly wrong with it for me, but
Yeah.
I don't have a strong connection to Ant-Man, and I would pretty much only watch that movie to laugh a few times.
I like Rudd in the role. I think he brings something to the MCU. I like him as a supporting character in other films much more than I like him in his own
Yeah, absolutely.
films. Yeah.
He's a much better supporting character.
Yeah. All right. So our number 4, we also agreed, was Age of Ultron. So the Avengers get back. They got the band back together. And we've got James Spader as the titular Ultron. We've got the introduction of Vision. There's a lot going on here in this film, right?
There is a lot going on.
But we both think there's at least 3 better in the phase. Let's take one step back. In terms of Avengers films, where does this one rank for you? Films with the name Avengers in the title.
Yeah, this is my least favorite Avengers movie, but I do still really enjoy this movie, and I think you and I might differ a little bit there. We have it in the same place on our list, but I think I enjoy it quite a bit more than you do. And there's lots of reasons for that. I think this movie has, in terms of moments, several of my favorite moments from all of the MCU. There's just so many fantastic scenes. I mean, right off the bat, I love the opening scene with the whole Avengers taking down Hydra. Mm-hmm. And even just several jokes that I think are hilarious. I love Iron Man saying language to Captain America saying language. I love them all trying to lift Thor's hammer. I actually think James Spader is a really interesting Ultron. I like how they took Ultron in the direction of being like Tony Stark in the way that he expresses and emotes. I really like the introduction of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I think Vision's birth is really good. I think all of their fights with Ultron, very interesting. Hulk versus Hulkbuster, very interesting.
So where does it fall short?
And that's just the problem for me, is so many moments that I love, but when you just put it all together, it feels a little hollow. I think overall it doesn't bring itself full circle well enough to at the end feel completely satisfied with the story they decided to tell. And instead it feels like a really good YouTube compilation of great Avengers moments rather than a cohesive story.
Yeah. So, which tells me that it's, from a plot perspective, struggles. Tells me that from an editing perspective, it struggles. I'm going to also go out on a limb and say that that Aaron Taylor Johnson, one of the most underutilized performers in the MCU.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think his post-MCU career has more than proven that he's formidable, Craven notwithstanding. But I think that I really wanted to see more of him, and I agree. That definitely a top 5 character for me in the MCU is Scarlet Witch. I love the introduction here. I love the story. I love what it starts off for us. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where it just there's one missing element that I can't quite put my finger on that just fails, where it sort of fails the genius test.
It just didn't quite capture lightning in a bottle again. That's really what it is. It's just missing that secret sauce somewhere in there. But mind you, speaking to Scarlet Witch, I will tell you one of my all-time favorite moments in the MCU is in this movie, and it's the scene where Hawkeye and her end up inside a building. She's freaking out a little bit because they're on a floating island fighting robots. Hawkeye even says that. He's like, we're on a floating island fighting an army of robots, and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense. And he tells her basically, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't babysit and do my job. So either you're staying here, that's fine. Your brother will come get you. But if you step out that door, you are an Avenger. And so then he goes out there, he does his thing. And then she has this really triumphant moment where she comes out this door in epic slow motion, just starts murdering robots left and right, plays the triumphant Avengers music, and I get chills every single time. In fact, I have chills right now talking about it.
I literally do as well. I agree. Hawkeye is one of my favorites. I also feel like super underutilized, and I love every time we get in the debate about MCU television shows, I'm always like, nope, Scarlet Witch 1, Hawkeye 2, and these are not popular opinions. I know everyone wants to go Loki, but those are my top two, honestly. Vision, the WandaVision, sorry, and Hawkeye as my top two.
I can't.
I love them both. I rewatch Hawkeye every Christmas.
Yeah, it's a good rewatch. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay, so this brings us to our number 3, and I got to tell you, I really struggled. We ended up aligning, but I really struggled whether or not Age of Ultron should be 3 or 4 in place of this film, and that's Iron Man 3. So what do you think? I mean, this is our 3rd installment of Iron Man. It's our is it our 5th entry as Iron? I mean, is that right?
It's the 4th, I believe, excluding post-credit scenes.
Excluding post-credit scenes.
It's the 4th real entry.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It came out ahead of Ultron.
And I'll tell you what, it is a hot take to say that this is an enjoyable movie. A lot of people have so many issues with this movie, and I actually think it's extremely enjoyable. In Iron Man 2, we have a depressed, drunken Tony Stark, but in Iron Man 3, we have an anxiety-ridden Tony Stark, and I think it's a very fine line, but a great distinction. And I think that this was a much more interesting direction to take the character. Him dealing with the PTSD, again, the fallout of his previous movie, I think
Post-Avengers,
is really good. And I know a lot of people hate this movie because of the Mandarin reveal, because most Iron Man fans have a connection to the Mandarin being his biggest villain. I didn't know the Mandarin before this movie, so it doesn't bother me. And I think that kind of contributes to why I enjoy this movie very much. I could rewatch this one regularly.
It both bothered me and entertained me at the same time. I had history with the Mandarin. I wanted to see the Mandarin. I thought the casting was a little odd, but as Ben Kingsley took on the part, I was enthralled with it, and I was all about it. And when the Trevor reveal came in, it definitely threw me off. But I ultimately find myself really loving Trevor. Like I'm rooting for Trevor. I'm pro Trevor. And I was glad to have him back in Shang-Chi, but it did. I understand for sure why a lot of loyal fans of the Iron Man comics would struggle with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, in my opinion, this movie's big issue is the fact that it ends as if Tony Stark is not coming back as Iron Man, and then he does immediately show back up in Age of Ultron as Iron Man without addressing it. Or without truly addressing it. Yeah. So it is kind of one of those weird situations where you could almost skip it because it doesn't add to the MCU very much, but I think it's extremely rewatchable.
Yeah. Another Shane Black film. We talked about him last week with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and some others, so that's good. All right, we're getting toward the end of this episode, so we got to finalize. Here's where we finally get to the point of debate. You and I disagree on 1 and 2. Why don't you give me your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just go with my number 2, your number 1, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
One of the best MCU movies to this day. I've only appreciated it more and more as the years have gone on. I remember watching this trailer, having a conversation with you. Marvel's out of ideas. It's run dry.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that was me telling you.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not going to work.
It's not going to work.
And I was dead wrong.
And we weren't sure that Chris Pratt had leading man charisma or potential. And man, was this maybe the biggest surprise that Marvel has put out still to this day. I don't think anybody expected this to work. And
Period.
It works so well. It is an absolute blast. You are jamming out the whole time. You're falling in love with these characters like you would not believe. You're crying by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It has the highest highs. It to this day is top tier MCU, and nobody will ever change my mind on that.
I agree. It's top 5 for me, and number 1 in terms of surprise.
Yeah.
And that's why I have it in number 1 for me for Phase 2. It's my top 1, and the reason that it edges out its competition in this case is how surprising it is that this is the MCU doing everything that it possibly can to bring something obscure. This is James Gunn at his best, right? I mean, James Gunn has proven over and over again that he wants to bring us obscure characters, that he wants to show off his acumen as it relates to the deep dives. But this works so perfectly. I personally had zero connection to Guardians of the Galaxy before this film. And I know that there's probably plenty of people that think that just means that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I had no connection to them at all, and I absolutely love them. I think across the board, you've got fantastic performances, you've got great writing, you've got. It's funny, the soundtrack is insane. I mean, this is one of my top MCU films of all time, and I think it is the number 1 film of Phase 2.
Yeah, that's no disagreements here. We're completely on the same page, just differing in our ranking. You want to?
So there is a disagreement. There's a disagreement.
There's a disagreement in where it places, and there's a good reason for that. And for me, my number 1 really comes down to Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is my number 1 movie in Phase 2, and to be honest, it might be my number 1 MCU movie. Period.
Yeah, I know.
You've always been
a lover.
This is a hot take when it comes to you, but it is a pretty common take amongst MCU fans, having the Winter Soldier in the top 3 to 5 MCU movies. For me, it solidified Captain America as my favorite character. I didn't really know that I liked Captain America yet until I saw this movie. This movie came out and I said, wait a minute. I think he's my favorite character. I think this guy has some sauce. And the Russo brothers...
He's got some sauce.
He's got some sauce. Russo brothers' first entry into the MCU. My favorite MCU directors thus far. And so for me, it's kind of just the genesis of all my favorite things in the MCU. I think it is an amazing political spy thriller. I think the storyline between Steve and Bucky is super good. I love the concept of Hydra having infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and Steve essentially having sacrificed himself for nothing. And I also just love the fact that he's always been the man to trust the man, and for once he has to venture off on his own. They take this morally pure character who sees things black and white, and they put him in very gray situations. And I think they found a way to make Captain America very interesting for the first time.
You think for the first time? You don't feel like he was interesting in Captain America, the First Avenger?
He was interesting, but to me, it's a night and day difference. He feels almost like a different character. And like I said, I think what it comes down to is they knew what kind of situations to put this character in for the audience to get to see him make some interesting decisions rather than the decisions we expect him to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great film. I don't want to go down the path of suggesting that I've got hate for this. I don't. I think for me, it didn't resonate right away as much, and I know that for you and many others that seems crazy, because it is so much of an introduction to that Russo brothers style that would ultimately define the rest of the Infinity Saga. But it took me a little while to get to the point where I had decided that I really, really liked this film. I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a great reason to be perfectly frank, but I also still feel like it's just like one little step behind Guardians in terms of where it ranks into the Phase 2 rankings. The
other great thing about this movie, sorry to cut you off, that I didn't mention, and I would just hate myself if I didn't, is the action in this movie. The combat, the hand-to-hand combat, the action scenes, to this day, I think are some of the best in the MCU, and kind of what I compare their movies today to. I walk out of the movie and think, did any action scene in that movie compare to some of the ones in The Winter Soldier for me? And more often than not, it's still no.
That's an interesting comment. I kind of feel like for me, I had to go like get through Civil War. And after Civil War, I was like, you know what? There's something that I really appreciate about this. It's grounding me again after so much, Wachovia kind of madness, that I really like what this is bringing to the table. And then from there, I kind of went backwards, revisited Winter Soldier, and realized that I kind of missed that the first couple times I watched the movie. I didn't appreciate what they were bringing to the table as far as that, as far as those action sequences, the hand-to-hand combat. And so I agree with you. I think I definitely, I know for a while we argued a lot, and you would say, Winter Soldier's number one, Winter Soldier's number one, Winter Soldier's number one. And I was like, nah, it's fine. It's fine. But, I'm recanting. I think it's definitely top tier.
Yeah, I'm glad you've grown and and come to realize, because you were blinded by the dark side for a little while there. Uh-oh. But you've come around. You've come around.
Any final thoughts on Phase 2?
Yeah. I mean, I know we just talked about how many of these movies we love. I have to say, though, overall, outside of the two that we have in our 1 and 2, I think I kind of look back at this phase as an interesting middle ground with some growing pains. If I were to sit down and rewatch all the way through the MCU with a loved one or a friend, this would probably be the section that I would be least excited for, minus my favorite movies. And that's just simply because it feels like we started off really good and we end really good, and this is a whole middle just trying to get us to the really great stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think, yes, you can yada a few of these if you wanted to. If you were trying to speed through, there's a few that you could skip. But, anyway. New segment here. We're going to give each other homework assignments. These are films that the other one loves, but is pretty sure that his counterpart has not seen and not given the chance to. So I'm going to give you a film from 1998. This is starring Bill Pullman and Ben Stiller. It is directed by a young Jake Kasdan, whose last name I'm sure you recognize. And this film is called Zero Effect. I know I've mentioned this to you before. I'm 99% sure you have yet to visit this film. But we are talking about a modern day absurdist retelling of the Sherlock Holmes style detective, and I think it's a really great watch, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I will definitely check that out by our next episode.
All right, what do you got for me, my man?
For me, I don't actually know if you've seen this movie, so if you have, I'm sorry. And I know I've mentioned it to you before, so that might be why you've seen it if you have. But my recommendation to you is going to be The King from 2019, starring Timothée Chalamet, Robert Pattinson, Joel Edgerton, Lily Rose Depp, Ben Mendelsohn, and Sean Harris. It's got a pretty stacked cast, in my opinion. I turned this movie on before I knew who Timothée Chalamet was, and it kind of just blew my mind. When I look at the reviews, a lot of people don't feel as fondly over this movie as I do. But I showed it to my wife. I showed it to a friend of mine. Everybody I've watched it with has really loved it. It's a really interesting performance from both Timothée Chalamet and Robert Pattinson, and it's a medieval story. It's just very blunt. It's not romanticizing whatsoever. It kind of just puts you in this world and makes you wish that you weren't there. But you're enjoying the movie all the way through. I think it's a great movie, and you definitely should check it out. I believe it's on Netflix.
Yeah, I have not seen it. You have mentioned it before, but I have not taken the time to watch it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Looking at it right now, interestingly enough, co-written by Joel Edgerton. That's interesting. I didn't realize that he was writing or writer. And yeah, early pair up for our Dune Messiah combo. All right, I'm in. So I will be watching The King this week on Netflix, and you will be watching Zero Effect, which I actually didn't take the time to figure out if it's available or not. So, but we do have it on. I've got it on Apple streaming. If you want to take a look at that,
sounds great.
Yeah, here we go. So we've ranked, we've debated, we disagreed though not about who shot first. Just another day in the galaxy.
So whether you're Gen X, Gen Z, or somewhere lost in the timeline, please like, subscribe, share, and keep listening to I Am Your Father.
Until next episode, remember, with great power comes a great second breakfast, but winter is also coming, so may the Force live long and prosper within you.
Because we can do this all day. Peace.